faithfully delivering value by interpreting the world's best books. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, I'll be breaking down this book for you titled Golden Wings, with the subtitle A Chinese Family Chronicle. This book is a classic work by the renowned anthropologist and sociologist Lin Yutang. In 1910, Lin Yutang was born in Gutian County, Fujian Province. In 1935, he earned his master's degree in sociology from Yenching University and became a famous sociologist. Fei Xiaotong was a fellow student under the same mentor. Their teacher, Wu Wenzhao, was also a big-name sociologist. With Wu Wenzhao's help and support, Lin Yutang went to the U.S. for studies and got his PhD in philosophy from Harvard University in 1940. After that, he stayed at Harvard to teach. During that time, he organized materials from his earlier fieldwork, mixed in his own life experiences, and wrote a novel about traditional Chinese village life. This book, Golden Wings, totally unexpectedly. Since the English version came out in the 1940s, it's been highly praised by academics worldwide. British anthropologist Professor Firth even compared it to classics like Dream of the Red Chamber. What makes Golden Wings special is that it's a sociology academic work written as a novel, blending truth, history, and scholarship. It's like a mini version of Chinese rural society and family systems. The book uses the complex social network of the Huang and Zhang families in Gutian County, Fujian, during the 1930s and 40s as its backbone. It tells the story around the protagonist Huang Donglin's life, ups and downs, covering the rise and fall of both families. It weaves in all kinds of social ties, like blood relations, kinship, and friendships, to cleverly sketch a complex social setup, showing how Chinese village society works and the tricky ways people interact. All right, now I'll walk you through the main points of this book from three angles: the social relationship web of traditional village families, daily life patterns, and how rural society changed. Before we dive in, I'll give you a quick rundown of the key family members in the Zhang and Huang clans and how they're connected. One, the story's hero, Huang Donglin, had one older brother and two older sisters. The eldest sister married a local guy named John Fen, and the second sister wed into a family surnamed Wang. Donlin's brother died young, leaving behind two sons and two daughters. Since there are so many kids in the next generation, to make it easier for you to follow, I'll call Donlin's brother's sons oldest and second, and Donlin's own sons third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Well, next, let's dive into the first aspect: the social relationship network in traditional Chinese rural families. From the author's view, in Chinese rural families, every member is part of the whole. People can't escape their identities to exist alone. They're interconnected, forming a complex web of relationships. In this network, any change by one person affects the whole system. It's this interconnectedness that maintains the overall harmony in Chinese rural society. As the author notes in the book, relationships between people are like a net of bamboo poles, tightly bound by an elastic rubber band. So, what social relationships make up this family network? Or rather, how does a family survive and grow through the connections and interactions among its people? And telling the story, the author mainly highlights three social relationships: blood ties, marriage ties, and friendship ties. First off, the blood relationship network is the bedrock of Chinese family organization and the one needing most careful upkeep. Over time, it inevitably shows cycles of coming together and splitting apart, with both mutual dependence and support among family members, plus constant new entanglements and conflicts. Oh, it's messy and hard to sort out. The life journey of the book's hero, Huang Donglin, perfectly shows this. When Donglin was 4, his 28-year-old dad suddenly died. So his mom Mrs. Pan took Donglin, his siblings, and lived with his grandpa and two uncles' families. 10 years later, the grandpa passed away too. Gonlin's two uncles then set up their own households, splitting from the family, and his older brother Dongming naturally became the head of Donglin's family. At this time, as a teen, Donglin not only faced the family's downfall, but also went through his first family split, feeling a natural division in the clan. Years later, after Donglin married and started his own family, he split from his brother Dongming too. This was his second time experiencing a family split. But just 1 year later, his brother died of illness, leaving behind his wife, Mrs. Lin, and four young kids. Oh, Donglin had to step up and take charge of keeping this big family going. The two families that had split were reunited, and Donglin became the new head. Oh, at this time, the whole family had three women and six children, and Donglin became the only adult man in the house. Through his hard work, he basically kept the Huan family afloat. But beneath the seemingly calm family relationships, there were actually countless undercurrents bubbling beneath the surface. The bonds between uncles and nephews and between brothers and sisters seemed unbreakable. However, once personal interests got involved, blood ties became a weak family connection. So as time went on and family members grew up, conflicts within the Huang family gradually surfaced, mainly showed in the following two aspects. First, the conflict between oldest and his uncle Donlin. Oldest thought uncle spent the whole family's money to send his own two sons to school, which was unfair to the other brothers, so he strongly demanded a family split. The second conflict was between oldest and second. Oldest believed second had no skills and couldn't contribute properly to the family. Second, though, thought oldest was way too domineering and bossy. Their personality differences and fights over interests led to intense clashes, even to the point of physical brawls. Under these circumstances, the Huang family faced their third family split. After repeated negotiations, Donglin and his two nephews reached an agreement. The Huang family was split into two branches. Donglin's branch, called Wenfeng, and the other called Wufeng. Soon, oldest and second also split again, each setting up their own stoves to cook. But even after the split, the Huang family's internal conflicts weren't truly resolved, and disputes between oldest and second kept flaring up, to the point that at Grandmother Pan's deathbed moment, the brothers even fought over her secretly giving some private money to second. Plus, oldest always felt their branch got shortchanged in the split, so he resented uncle. Later, he repeatedly pulled his shares from Donglin's shop, but ended up having to go back to work there due to various reasons. So, however, Donglin didn't hold a grudge over his nephew's distrust and welcomed him back every time. Donglin deeply understood that, for a family, internal conflicts can't be avoided. Only by actively facing and solving them can the family's normal life be sustained. The family head must treat every member with tolerance and humility, using a broad heart to unite them. This is the most distinctive feature shown by the blood relationship network. Besides blood ties, marriage relationship networks also play a crucial role in Chinese rural family social structures. And that rule sometimes it can even be a key force that shapes a family's destiny. Throughout history and across cultures, examples abound of using marriage alliances to gain political and economic leverage. In this book, Donglin's journey into business started with his partnership with his brother-in-law, Zhang Fenzhou. At first, they teamed up to rent a shop in the local town, dealing in traditional Chinese medicine, liquor, and other goods. Zhang Fenzhou was both the shopkeeper and the one in charge of medical consultations. Donglin was both a shareholder and the main labor force. Even though the shop's business scope kept changing later on, their partnership held steady. Donglin and Zhang Fenzhou were not just business partners, but also brothers by marriage. They worked hand in hand in running the shop, gradually building up a sizable fortune. However, after getting rich together, cracks began to form in their relationship over the location for new homestead land. Turns out, Zhang Fenzhou got first pick and chose a prime feng shui spot known as Dragon's Spitting Pearl, and he built the Zhang family's new house there, but didn't leave any space for the Long family to build theirs. So Donglin had to pick another plot nearby. Oh, this one had two small hills on either side that from a distance looked just like a bird's wings. That's why Donglin's home later became known as the Golden Wings House. Ah, and that's the origin of this book's title. Because of this incident, although there was some unpleasantness between Donglin and Zhang Fenzhou, their conflict didn't escalate further. In the end, both families moved smoothly into their spacious new homes and started fresh lives. But not long after, their fates took drastically different turns. The Hong family gradually prospered, while the Zhangs suffered heavy blows one after another. Zhang Fenzhou's wife, eldest son, and third son all died of illness. These heavy losses left Zhang Fenzhou completely crushed. Not long after, he himself passed away in his 50s. His second son, Mao Hang, inherited his father's shares in the shop, but lacking business sense, he squandered the Zhang family's fortune in just a few years. From then on, Mao Hang became mentally broken, lost interest in life, got hooked on opium, and soon died of illness too. Facing this series of family misfortunes in the Zhang family, the Huangs, as in-laws, only offered condolences. Compared to blood ties, marriage relationships appear much looser. Marriage ties. While such networks can influence a family's fate externally, they're hard to truly integrate into the family's shared destiny community. If blood and marriage ties form the backbone of social relationships in Chinese rural families, then friendship networks serve as vital supporting forces. They also play roles in a family's fate, and at critical moments might even turn the family's situation around. For example, during the Huan family's new home construction, they clashed with the local Ao family over timber logging. The two families' fight over forest land ownership escalated into a forest rights dispute. During the lawsuit, Donglin was arrested by local authorities and jailed. When third son, studying in the provincial capital, heard the news, he rushed home. With help from classmate Chen Shengkai and others, he appealed to the provincial high court and won the case. Donglin not only built the new home, but also gained greater social prestige. Another example, in 1927, when the Nanjing nationalist government was new, the Secretary General of Fujian's Salt Bureau happened to be third son's friend. Through this connection, third son became salt wholesaler agent for Huku Town, letting Donlin's shop monopolize local salt trade for huge profits. Though the monopoly ended later, seizing this rare chance helped the Hongs expand other businesses, making them the town's most influential family. Thus, friendship ties are a key component in Chinese rural families' social networks. Having received frequent help from friends, the Hongs grew more attentive to managing social relationships. The most typical example was rescuing third son's friend Chen Changkai. Chen Changkai had helped the struggling Hong family many times before. So when he was jailed for complaining about his superior, Donglin, as Chamber of Commerce head, mobilized numerous social connections. Finally got him bailed out. Okay, let's now summarize Part 1's main content. Traditional Chinese family social networks include not only primary relationships like blood and marriage ties, but also supportive ones like friendships. A family's survival system is built by these diverse social relationships, filled with both cooperation and support, as well as entanglements and conflicts, together painting a vibrant picture of rural Chinese family life. Besides focusing on, the family social network as the core narrative thread, this book also dedicates significant space to describing the daily life in rural Fujian. This is the second topic we'll cover today. For most farmers in rural China, pursuing material stability is the top priority for family livelihood. So they stick to agriculture as the foundation with strong local roots and only invest in commerce or industry when forced or financially able. Even after achieving prosperity through business, they won't easily abandon farming. Instead, they'll use earnings to buy more land, expanding agricultural scale. For instance, protagonist Huang Donlin only turned to business after his family declined, pushed by relatives and with their support. He later managed the shop efficiently with growing profits, but never gave up farming. He specifically put oldest in charge of farming, leading other brothers and farmhands in agricultural work. The women handled daily household chores. This division of labor always adhered to agriculture as foundation. Similarly, the Zhang family upheld this principle in economic arrangements. When they first moved to Dragon Spinning Pearl, the Zhangs lived quite contentedly. All three sons married and started careers. The eldest handled trade and Fuzhou, becoming key to shop operations. But the other two were assigned by Zhang Fenzhou to manage farming in their hometown until the family declined. Agriculture in the countryside remained the Zhang family's ultimate home. Of course, prioritizing farming and stability doesn't mean Chinese farmers lack ambition. When opportunities arise, they actively seize them for wealth through commerce. For example, Donglin's shop handled businesses like traditional medicine, rice, salted fish, salt, transportation, and so on. He also stayed long-term in the provincial capital, meeting many merchants, bank owners, and people from all walks of life. These experiences greatly broadened his perspective and had a huge impact on his later life. Beyond stable livelihoods, folk cultural activities are incredibly rich in traditional Chinese rural society. In Fujian villages, described here, the most representative events include Spring Festival, certain festivals, and ceremonies like weddings and funerals. These activities embody cultural concepts and serve vital social functions. They strengthen social bonds, maintain family unity and order, and magically rebuild collective emotions. Funerals and weddings especially stand out. After Donglin's mother died, his family held an elaborate funeral lasting months, attracting rarely seen relatives. 11 people from Mrs. Pan's maiden family came, all descendants of her father. Each represented a branch of the Pan family today. 6 had never met Mrs. Pan and had no connection to the Huangs, but they had to attend. It's a blood tie requirement, and this actually strengthened bonds between mourners and guests. And another case, young second once chased Uncle Donlin with a chopping knife over criticism. This angered Donlin so much he skipped Second's wedding, leaving their conflict unresolved for years. But when Second's son married, the whole family attended. In the warm, harmonious atmosphere, the family rift healed beautifully. See how vital folk events are for uniting families? Additionally, these activities pass traditions across generations. The book notes how during festivals, the youngest son, 6, eagerly joined festivities, soaking up joy and unconsciously absorbing traditions. Okay, now that we've covered folk cultural activities, let's talk about family education in rural areas. In traditional Chinese rural families, fathers have absolute authority over their children's education. For instance, during upbringing, if a father uses physical discipline, it's not seen as inappropriate by society. It's actually viewed as a sign of responsibility. Just like in the classic novel Dream of the Red Chamber, Jia Baoyu did something wrong. When his father Jia Zhang found out, he severely punished him physically. The mother couldn't do anything. Only when grandmother Jia intervened did Jia Zhang stop. By then, Bao Yu was seriously injured. This scene is similar. This book also mentions that when Father Donlin learned 6th skipped school, he flew into a rage and punished him harshly with bamboo sticks and wooden rods. Although the mother and wife expressed pity and tried to stop Donlin's violence, they ultimately couldn't succeed. Sixth learned a painful lesson and started taking studies seriously, eventually entering university. This fully demonstrates the Chinese tradition of strict father, kind mother in family culture. Moreover, the father's dominance in education is also shown in how he largely decides his children's life paths. For example, as a businessman from a farmer background, Donlin recognized early the profound changes in society. He dared to break the traditional idea of not traveling far while parents are alive and successfully sent his two sons to modern higher schools. Clearly, Father Donglin's foresight was key to giving his sons a chance at higher education. And it was the social capital they accumulated during studies that helped the Huang family survive multiple disasters safely. In short, traditional Chinese rural social life has some distinct characteristics. In economic matters, people mostly adhere to agriculture as foundation, carrying out reasonable family labor division. In folk culture, various ritual activities play significant roles in strengthening family unity, connecting social ties, and promoting local social integration. In family education, the male head has absolute authority, and his educational views deeply influence future generations. The story in this book takes place from the late 19th century to the 1930s and 40s, spanning the turmoil of the late Qing dynasty, warlord conflicts in the early Republic of China, two civil wars, up to the outbreak of the anti-Japanese War. Over these decades, the vast rural areas of Fujian have been deeply affected by social factors like bandit invasions and changes in national political power, leading to major shifts in the entire social cultural environment. At the same time, local people's daily lives were severely impacted, and the fates of various families diverged significantly. So now I'll tell you about it. The third aspect is about the impact of changes in the social environment on rural society. Since ancient times, bandits have played a significant role in Chinese local politics, especially in turbulent times, exerting a profound impact on local social order. During the late Qing and early Republican period, villages in Fujian suffered greatly from bandits. For instance, when the Hong and Ao families were in a lawsuit, the shop jointly run by Don Lin and Zhang Fenzhou was raided by bandits. The accountant, Yao Yunsheng, was also kidnapped. And it wasn't until Donglin won the lawsuit that Donglin and Zhang Fenzhou paid a heavy ransom to get him back. Another example is Sixth Son, who was studying in the provincial capital. He was kidnapped by bandits on his way home and only escaped after much hardship. Although it ended without major harm, it caused significant mental stress for Donlin. Later, Donlin joined forces with local gentry and powerful families to form a militia against bandits, making the conflict with local bandits even more intense. Compared to the Hong family, the Zhan family suffered more severe harm from bandits later on. Zhang Fenzhou's second son, Mao Heng, once partnered with someone in business. After problems arose, that person seized the chance to embezzle all the shop's money, fled to the mountains to become a bandit, and even became a bandit leader. After that, the Zhang family completely declined. Later, Zhang Fenzhou's nephew became the leader of the local militia. He never forgot how this bandit leader had wronged his cousin Mao Heng and was always seeking a chance for revenge. Thus, the local militia, with Zhang brothers as the core, engaged in multiple armed conflicts with the local bandits. In conflict after conflict, the Zhang family not only lost a lot of property, but also lost four brothers in succession, leaving the entire clan devastated. Thus, it's clear how severe the impact of bandit invasions was on Chinese rural society. Although the Huang family avoided fatal blows from bandits multiple times, They were deeply affected by national political situations, especially local military wars. For example, when Donglin was in the timber business, a warlord conflict broke out locally. Fortunately, the war ended quickly, allowing Donlin to continue expanding his timber business. But the good times didn't last. In 1931, the September 18th incident occurred in northeast China, causing timber prices to plummet. Donglin's timber business was hit hard once again. Soon after, conflict broke out between local garrison commanders and provincial military authorities. The local troops forcibly occupied Donglin's Golden Wings house, forcing the Hongs to flee elsewhere until the troops were repelled. At that moment, only the house remained. Everything else was looted, their shop ransacked to near bankruptcy. This was the Huang's first massive wartime property loss in years. Afterward, the area experienced more major political upheavals. During this, while the Hongs lost significant wealth, their family's safety was secured. Yet with China's full-scale war of resistance erupting in 1937, Fujian endured constant Japanese bombing. In 1941, Fuzhou, the provincial capital, was occupied by Japanese forces, plunging local order into chaos again. The Hong's town business was destroyed, forcing them back to Golden Wing's house to resume farming. Younger generations joined national salvation efforts. The turmoil shattered rural life structures. No great family could prosper forever. The Zhang's decline and Huang's return to square one weren't accidents. They followed the inevitable cycle of rise and fall. Ultimately, the Huangs couldn't keep pace with societal changes. Facing national crisis, they returned to their beginnings. Still, Donlin maintained peace of mind, returning to farming. This acceptance and detachment might be the ideal existence the author envisioned. All right, let's summarize this book's key points. For rural Chinese families, changes in material conditions, lifestyles, demographics, or external factors can dramatically alter their fate. The Hong succeeded by expanding social networks through rural-urban movement, using social capital to navigate crises. In contrast, the Zhang family didn't pay enough attention to managing social relationships, and the younger generation failed to judge people wisely or show ambition, ultimately destroying their entire business. Through the book, Golden Wings, you see traditional Chinese rural family networks, daily life patterns, and the profound impact of changing times on rural society. After nearly a century of upheavals, you might be surprised to find that, even today, many rural Chinese areas still operate in ways similar to the book. Traditional family social networks still play vital roles. People's mindsets may be shaken by external forces, but deep down, they resist change. Thus, some scenes from the book still echo in people's lives today. For example, family members who've split households years ago still gather for Spring Festival, and some hold rituals like ancestor worship to affirm their collective identity. Perhaps many sense that 21st century Chinese face new economic shifts and social changes, like the spread of internet tech, such as the gradual formation of global markets, rapid urbanization, and the recent universal two-child policy, among others. What impact will this have on family structures and lifestyles in rural China? We predict this will be a crucial issue for rural China's future, deserving attention from every Chinese citizen. All right, that concludes our interpretation of Golden Wings for you. The book notes are below the audio, and we'll see you tomorrow.